Okay, so hey y'all, it's your girl Aliya Jamari, aka Honestly, and I'm here with Quintina Sonnie, who is a somatic practitioner.
I'm so excited. So, a lot of people don't really know exactly what that means. I'm going to get into that in a second. But thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I was so excited when you asked me. I was like, yes, absolutely. Because we really do be having like some real talks. Like, if you really want to say, like, honestly, super candid. So, a somatic practitioner, I work with the body. So, my mission is to help 300,000 women reconnect their consciousness back to their body using body based somatic self healing. And with somatics, it's not like your talk therapy or external things. This is really about connecting back to your body's own wisdom and its own functions that give us the skill to be able to process trauma, resolve it, release it, and handle it when it comes up.
hmm Um, so can you explain like how it differs from different forms of healing or therapy?
Yeah, I think with therapy, and I work with a lot of people that have heavy trauma. We would call that complex post traumatic stress.
hmm
I am not licensed, but I do know about the different diagnoses and things like that. So, as a practitioner, I am certified, but I'm not like licensed as a therapist. But with that being said, I'm trying to remove but from my vocabulary, and I feel that a lot of people have come to me, or just in general, I hear the sentiment of I I can't talk about it anymore. Like it's still in me. There's no amount of talking about it that's going to help me get out of this. Why does it keep coming up? Why don't I have any tools, like where how am I supposed to move through all of this when all I'm doing is talking about it? And that just uses one part of the brain. And so when we are trying to actually resolve trauma and remove it from the body, because trauma is actually in the body, not the brain,
hmm
the talk therapy will only do so much. So you need to bring the body in and give tools to resolve the actual energy that's inside. So
hmm
that's like the biggest difference is the body has its own innate wisdom that's already within it, and we can use that to move the trauma literally out of the body. Instead of with talk therapy, it's just like, okay, it's really good for processing, and it's great to talk about, but I personally don't believe that it's enough, and I think that working with the body is that next step, or working in tandem with therapy.
Right. Um, I had a day where I was just like emotionally just distraught and I couldn't really pinpoint why. And I think I kind of naturally or intuitively did like a somatic healing just session with myself where I just kind of just moved my body however I felt needed to be moved and I felt like a release. Would you say that that is essentially what somatic healing is? If not, can you like show like exactly how it approaches trauma and like emotional issues like differently than just talking about it? Because like I felt like a release within my body, but I couldn't really explain what it was or how it was. Can you like kind of walk me through it like so that I can get a visualization of what that looks like?
Absolutely. I love that you said that you intuitively walked yourself through this, because that's really what it is. All of this is innate within us. It's intuitive to us. It is something that we always have done. But of course, when something is monetized in a way, like therapy, which is again needed, not knocking therapy, but it's only one side of the story. So what you did was emotions are energy in motion. They need to be moved out. So if you are experiencing an emotion, distress, anxiety, whatever, it's trying to come out. If you're just talking about it, that's fine. Sometimes that can feel good enough. But if you don't actually resolve it, guess what happens? It just keeps coming back up because emotion is just energy in motion. So what you did was you actually moved the energy, you moved that emotion out of your body. And that's just one of many somatic practices. There's not just one specific thing. There's breath work, there's emotional freedom technique, there's dancing, there's especially in our cultures, like dance is a huge somatic practice for people. So there's lots of different ones that you can use. And to answer the other part of the question of like walking you through it, what you did was that movement wherever you felt like it was stuck, because again, trauma is in the body, not in the brain. The brain processes the trauma, the brain conceptualizes, analyzes, and computes the trauma, but it doesn't actually do anything to get it out or to release it or to give you a tool to actually solve or resolve the trauma. So moving your body in that way actually pushed that energy out so that it no longer felt like it needed to continuously come back up.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You just explained something that I could not like actually process that day as to why I felt so much more free and so relieved after I moved around. Like I literally just got up in my bedroom and was just moving. And eventually it was like, okay, well, that's done. And then I journaled about it and it was just so freeing. And I've been in therapy, and I've been talking about it. I've been processing, but moving my body really helped to kind of fully release it. So thank you for that. I do have a question as far as like, are there any common misconceptions about somatic healing that you encounter?
I think a lot of people feel like somatics is, since it's not regulated, since you don't need to be licensed, since you don't need any sort of specific credentials, it's not a medicinal practice like a academic practice. I think a lot of people discredit it because it doesn't have that, you know, that licensure or these very
Mhm.
strict qualifications to be able to do practices. And I definitely believe that it is so incredibly important as practitioners to have certifications and have gone through trauma informed, um, like trauma informed practice, or I'm trying to find the word, like certifications, credentials, like just being able to have a structure and a system. There we go, a structure and a system to practicing, but also remembering that all healing, all healing is self healing. I, as a practitioner, am not healing you. I, as a practitioner, am not solving your problems. What my job is, and what all somatic practitioners' jobs are, is to give other people the tools and to reflect back to them what is already innately within them. It's already inside. We have a three-dimensional body for a reason, and when we use it to process these the duality that we exist in, because on one half we have all these wonderful things, and then on the other hand we have all these things that we dislike, right? So processing the things that we dislike, the things that have caused trauma and distress, um, I think is super important to understand when you're thinking about somatics, because of course licensed clinical things are great and they have their place, and they can also have other things like somatics come alongside. So I think that's the biggest misconception, is just people discrediting it because of its intuitiveness, and how
Right.
literally, like, it's literally just a part of us. There's nothing to there's no specific credentials that you need in order to like move forward as a practitioner,
Right.
or to do it on your own.
Right. And I know that you like expressed that there should be some sort of credentials, but I wondered like how that can be a thing when it's so intuitive. Like what would that look like? What do you think? Like would it be kind of tapping into that intuition and kind of tapping into like whoever you're I guess your client may be or the person that you're working with to kind of tap into like what they're feeling and being more intuitive and like what this situation is and then going from there like what would the credentialing like process look like for something that is so intuitive that you is on the inside of you like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to preface that with like the trauma informed lens, because it's very easy as a human being to like trigger the other person, right? So if you are not aware of how trauma works, if you're not aware of how the practice works, because there's actually a lot of science behind the different somatic practices. So I feel like at the minimum as a practitioner, you need to know how to what the science is behind the practice. Why does it work? How does it work? What are you bringing up? How are you holding space for the client, for the other person that is uh you're bringing up these emotions that have been repressed or potentially in that moment are they're currently experiencing, right? So as a practitioner, it's really important to know how to hold that space. There are certifications that you can get. I don't think that they're necessary, but I do think that they help to make sure that you've gone through some sort of structural training on how to hold space for groups, for individuals, when somebody is having a somatic traumatic experience, when at the aftercare of that, because you are working with something that is deeply innate within. And again, as a practitioner, I'm here to show the tools that you can use yourself. You don't need me to do the practices, but if you don't know what to do, then how would you do it? So I think being able to kind of recap all of that, being able to hold space in a trauma informed way and understanding what the practice is that you're doing and how it works scientifically, how it works with the in the body, and then understanding how to hold that energy when it comes up is what I would say is really important as a practitioner.
Wow. um I know that you were talking about just going through like I guess a traumatic episode essentially and I was wondering like how during that process could you kind of walk someone through addressing kind of like a physical symptom like saying someone is going through an anxiety attack. I've had those a few times in my life like how in that moment could I use I mean, I guess I could relieve something that's like rooted in emotional trauma with somatic healing in that moment.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes the anxiety is bringing up things that we didn't actually know were in there or didn't know that we needed to move through. Anxiety is fear of the future, right? So you're having this emotional response to something that hasn't even happened yet. So it's all about bringing yourself back to the body and back to the present moment, because anything outside of you is you have no control over it. There's nothing that you can do for the future because it doesn't exist yet, right? It does, but not in our three-dimensional expression, right? We can't be in the future right now, right? So when you are working with the body and you are experiencing something that is looking forward to the future, somatics helps you bring you back to your body in the present moment. That's really what the basis of a lot of the different types of practices do, whether it's breath work, whether it's grounding outside, whether it's tapping, which is that emotional freedom technique. There's a ton of different ones out there, moving, dancing. All of those things are taking your mind and your body out of this external, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out about something out there, something that doesn't exist yet, but very well based on something I probably experienced in the past, right? Because it's still within me. But I'm
Mhm.
thinking about it in the future forward. And what these somatic practices do is they help bring you back to the present moment, back into the body, which is why when I said my mission was to help people to reconnect their consciousness with their body. A lot of us are out here dissociating, really just kind of moving through life in a way where we are not fully present. We're either ruminating on the past or we're thinking about the future. Neither of those things are right here, right now. And our three-dimensional selves only exist in the now. But our
Mhm.
consciousness can, we can think about the past and we can think about the future or help to predict it, right? But when we're reconnecting that consciousness, what we're saying is, I want to be here right now. And I don't want to have to worry about what happened before because that's not happening right now to me. And I don't want to worry about what's coming because I don't know what's coming. I can't do anything about that. So with somatics, it's like, okay, bring me back here to this body, to the present moment, so that you can do that. I think you were asking maybe for like a specific practice or like to show you.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
not necessarily. It was more so like, I mean, yeah, you could say
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Like just really, really quick. One of my favorite, it's so fast, it's so easy, is the square breath. It is literally so easy. You can pull it out at any time. And honestly, nobody would even know you were doing it. So all you're doing is you're breathing in through your nose for 5 seconds. You hold your breath at the top for 5 seconds with your lungs full. You breathe out of your mouth for 5 seconds. And then you hold for another 5 seconds with all the air out of your lungs. And it's really interesting because when you breathe through your nose, it's your breathing through your nose has a completely different body reaction than breathing through your mouth. When you breathe through your mouth, like in and out of your mouth, it actually increases your cortisol, so it heightens the stress hormone because your body is thinking that you're hyperventilating or trying to get more oxygen to fight, freeze, run away, whatever that response is. And then through your nose, that is that rest and digest, being able to pull yourself back to more grounded state. So when you're doing the square breath, the reason you're breathing in through your nose is because you're telling your body as you breathe in, hey, we're safe, I'm fine. And when you breathe out of your mouth, you're actually releasing then any energy that practice is bringing up. So you when you breathe out, you're like, you get to surrender with the to the breath with whatever is coming up for you or whatever was distressing you, right? So that is
Right.
such an easy quick practice that you can do for a couple of minutes, and you'll notice such a huge difference in like your calmness, your cortisol levels decrease, stress hormones go down, things rebalance, and you actually give space between the response that you're having and a behavior.
Mhm. Wow. You answered like 4 questions of mine all at once, which is great. It's amazing. This is so good. I have a question. Can you like give an example of, I don't know if you either probably help someone or even you personally where you use some sort of somatic practice and it had a significant impact on your life or their life.
Absolutely. I have been using these tools forever. So I think it's about 5 years in total. I could probably say 7, but I really started to get into somatics about 5 years ago.
Mhm.
So for me, it's been I was my first client. So using these practices on myself. But I do want to give an example. There's somebody that comes to mind that has just been through so much, and she is just an incredible person. And it's wild because we've been doing a lot of emotional freedom technique, which is that tapping that I was telling you about. There's different meridians on the body that when you tap in, what you're doing is you're bringing your attention, of course, back to the present moment and back to the body. And we actually use customized affirmations. So we walk through limiting beliefs first. We're pulling out, okay, what are you feeling right now? What is that? What's the narrative in your mind saying about this situation? And we pull out all those negative beliefs. Then we neutralize them, and we do 12 of them. So there's one affirmation or negative self-belief for each tapping point. So when we do the second round, we neutralize them. And what that means is, say you're like, I am super lazy. I'm a lazy person. That's like your negative self-talk, right? To
Mm-hmm.
neutralize that, we could say something like, I'm working on getting my I'm working on building a routine. And then on the third one, we say, I am a productive and creative person. So you see how we went from this negative belief to like what we actually want to believe. So that affirmation is what we're actually literally going to tap into the body on those meridians. So as you go through that, it's a really, really beautiful process. It's super duper amazing. And anyone can really do it, but it does help to have somebody walk you through it, because sometimes we can't see our own negative beliefs. And
Right.
I'm trained to hear the negative beliefs that people don't really think are negative, or maybe they're not consciously aware of like what is coming out of their mouth. And I'm like, hey, have you ever thought about what you just said? Like, if you have, like, where's the proof to that? And they're like, oh, actually, there isn't any. I'm like, okay, like, let's walk through that, right? So she was, now we're to a point where in the beginning, I really had to like coach her through making those positive affirmations. Like, she had a hard time going from that negative belief to like thinking about what the affirmation was, right? And like what she really wanted to believe about that situation. Now she literally does them herself. Like, of course, I'm sitting in session with her, but she's like, okay, here's my negative beliefs. Here's how we're going to neutralize them. Here's, all my affirmations. And maybe I have to like adjust the wording just a little bit, just because I know how the subconscious works. So I got to work with the wording a little bit, but she literally will do it like herself. And it's such a beautiful progression, because like these are things, this lets me know that eventually she's not going to need me anymore. Eventually she's going to be able to do these things on her own. And that is the whole point. I feel like with some of these clinical things, we say, here's a medicine, here's a pill, go to talk therapy for 10 years. Like, I don't want you to need me for that long. Please don't need me for that long. I'm
Right.
here to teach you what's already inside. And that to me is showing me that it's actually working, because she's really able to do these things herself. And it's just so beautiful to see.
Right. Um, so what advice do you have for someone who is interested in exploring somatic healing for themselves or even for their clients?
I would say to really understand the science behind it. That's like the first thing, just understanding like what you're working with, and find a practice that resonates with you. I love, like I said, there's so many out there, but I love EFT and breathwork specifically because those are the ones that transformed my life. And I know the ins and outs of what I need, or like how they worked. And because I what knew the ins and outs, I was able to so much more easily share that practice and like open up the idea of how they could work with it themselves so much more easily. It just
Right.
works. So I would say knowing the practices that you really resonate with, and really just deep dive and be your own first client. Use them on yourself, because what is the point if you're just telling everybody else what to do, but you're not doing it yourself?
Okay, can you explain a little bit what EFT is?
Yeah, so that was the tapping, the emotional freedom technique. That was the 12 meridians. So there's a bunch of meridians on the body, but EFT works with 12 of them. And what you
Mhm.
do is you tap on them as you say, whether it's the negative self talk just to pull them forward, or if it's the affirmations at the end, you're really just you're bringing your body in to the speaking. So you're hearing it, you're using your conscious mind as well as using your physical body to get you on the same page of those positive affirmations. So that's CFT.
Okay, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I think this is about the time limit that I gave to you. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thank you so much. Can you tell the listeners, more about you and like how they can find you and what you're working on now?
Yes, all my handles, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, I'm all at Quintina Sonnie. So you can find me on there. I do a lot more of my barefoot journey on TikTok. I don't really talk too much about somatics on there, but I do sometimes, because grounding is actually another somatic practice. So barefooting kind of moves into that. But and then on Instagram and Facebook, you'll find me talking about all the things. I definitely use Instagram stories as like a personal diary. So if you really want to get to know me, you can get to know me in my stories.
Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thank
I
you.
was really nervous about this episode, but you made it feel so great. Thank
Thank you.
you for being a part, and I'll talk to my cousins later. Bye.